I have been shooting with Canon cameras for, I think, 4, maybe 6 years now. And for the last year or so, I've really been wanting to switch to the Sony FX3. And in this video, I want to tell you why. First of all, this is such an exciting day because this package here just arrived from Sony. I have been extremely fortunate to get in contact with first Sony Nordic, which then led to talking with Sony New Zealand, where I am for this entire year. And they agreed to lend me the FX3 for 2 weeks. So it just arrived today and here it is. Oh, well, this is a box, but if we can open this, I do believe. There it is. The Sony FX3. I've been wanting this camera for such a long time and it feels crazy to actually have it in my hands now. It's one thing to go to a Sony store and just try it out for like 2 minutes and get a feel of it, but to actually have it now for 2 weeks and being able to test it out and figure out if I do actually want to make the switch, which I'm already 99% sure I do. Now I have the chance to fully test it, and this camera is probably not going to leave my side for the next 2 weeks, as I'm just going to test it all that I can and put it through its paces and see if it's what I imagine it to be, and hope that it'll be. But first, let's have a look at what else Sony sent me as well. So besides the camera here, inside the box, I got a charger, important, with another extra battery. I asked for that as well. And then I got the XLR handle too. I have no idea how to use this, so that is probably going to take a few YouTube videos to figure out as well. But just the fact that I have the top handle that I can put on, pretty nice. USB-C cable, probably for charging as well. That's nice, and I can charge both batteries, one in the charger and one in the camera itself. So that's pretty nice. I need to make sure that this is all packed neatly because I need to ship all of this back to them in 2 weeks. So let's just take the time to put it back properly. All right. Now that we are at it with the XLR handle, originally I just asked to be able to test out one of the microphones. So this is the, I don't remember the name. I'm gonna put the name somewhere here. I can't remember, they have weird names. But this microphone, just to put it on and to test that out. I was excited to do that. But when the box came, I realized that they had also sent this, which is the XLR mic. This one is K3M. Again, no idea. I just recently looked up what the difference between XLR and non-XLR is. So not really an audio expert, but the microphone here looks really good. So I'm very excited to test it out. Right now I'm using the DJI Mic 1. So there's another without the handle, but just the XLR input-output thing here with the hot shoe thing and something else in here that I don't know what it is. So this I'm gonna try and plug into the camera in a second. Packing everything back up neatly. All right, and then they let me borrow 3 lenses, and I have very specific purposes of why I've asked for these specific lenses. So let's start with the one that's probably not a surprise at all, the 24-70 f2.8 G Master 2nd edition. I am currently shooting this on the R6 still with the 24-70 f2.8. So this is like, that's the lens that lives on my camera pretty much non-stop. Comes in this little carrying case here. Whoa, this is so light. This is feels so much lighter than the one on my Canon camera. I'm not gonna need the lens hood, so we can put that back in here. Pretty nice. You might already know this lens. Aperture click ring here. This is probably the one that I'm gonna be using the most, as that's normally what I use the most. I'm gonna put that over here as well. Then I asked to borrow the G Master 35mm f1.4. The reason for this is that if I make the switch to Sony, which I probably will, I'm pretty keen on trying to get a cinema lens, and that would probably be a 35 because that's the focal length I end up shooting most on anyway. So let's just see, tiny, cool little lens. f1.4. See if my camera will focus on this. Very tiny, neat. I actually went out and bought a step-up ring for this size so I can use it outside as well. When I have the FX3 around with me these next 2 weeks, this will probably live on it when it's not for a specific shoot, but it's just walking around, as this is a little bit smaller and lighter and easier to carry around. So that's the reasoning for that. These were probably not the most surprising lenses, pretty standard. But then there's this one, the 12-24 f2.8 G Master as well. Now, the reason why I wanted to borrow this lens is, especially when I'm shooting in a space like this, like the widest I have on the Canon is 24 millimeters. I always wanted something a bit wider for when we walk around vlogging and we do other stuff. So this can just be a very cool opportunity to try that out as well, especially when going around vlogging. This lens is huge though. And I will not be able to put a filter on this one, I think, but like a fisheye distorted one. But I'm very curious to try this out, especially for shooting inside, and depending on how sunny it is, probably outside as well. But just having that wide angle field. Normally I like the tighter focal length more, but I'm very curious to try this out and see if that could be something when we have that. And also try it on Joya's camera, which is the A6400. It has a crop sensor, so maybe it's not going to be as wide, but curious to test it out on that as well. So those are the lenses. So 3 lenses, the FX3, the XLR handle, and then 2 microphones. So a lot to test out over the next 2 weeks. Now I'm going to try and put this lens, the 12-24 on it, and just see how it works. So I'm going to switch everything around. I'm going to try and figure out how to attach this XLR mic, and then we're going to see how it works. And if you can notice the difference when I'm switching cameras. Alright, so now we are finally on the FX3. I managed to put everything together here, and we're on the wide lens. Right now we're at 24 millimeters, which is what I'm used to shooting on as well. But in a second I'm gonna go to 12 millimeters. I hope the audio is good. I tried to set this up and figure out how the XLR mic works. Hopefully it's not clipping or anything, but I guess you know that already. I'll figure that out later. But this is where I think 12 meters becomes too much, but let me just show you what this looks like. So this is 24 and this is 12 millimeters. Like now everything looks distorted, even though everything is centered. You can even see my light right now. That's crazy how wide this is. So I would probably go a bit more, something like this. I have no idea where we are on the range now, but just the fact that I can do this, and I even have these bars on now, so I can see on the screen that this will be for vertical. This opens up so many opportunities, and in a little bit I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna bring the 35 millimeter, I think, or maybe the 24-70, and this lens for vlogging, talking, and then I'm gonna bring the other one to shoot some B-roll while we go around. Well, I'll tell you about why I want to switch this camera and why I'm no longer happy with the R6. So this was just a kind of like little indoor test. Again, this is just absolutely crazy. We can get some fun shots with this, and this would be perfect for having in the camper van that we're gonna buy later, because we will be able to see everything in there. I'm gonna go outside, take you with me, and we're just gonna go around Auckland a little bit, shoot, talk, and yeah, just have fun with that. Have fun with testing out the FX3 for real. So yeah, let's go. I don't know why, but it's so freaking awkward to walk around and vlog when I'm alone. I've just walked down the street quite a bit already, and yeah, I don't know. It's just so awkward. Yeah, I bought my first camera, I think about 5 years ago. Oh my god, I can't do this. Okay, wait till we get to the park. Okay, I think this is a bit better. I'll find a place where there's not that many people, so I can easily talk to you, but yeah, someone's coming walking by now. I'm just gonna ignore it. Bought my first camera. Right, so about 5 years ago, I bought my first camera, and I didn't know anything about cameras. I just wanted to have a hobby for photography, and I kind of just wanted to travel by myself and have a purpose because I'm not necessarily that social. So it was a bit awkward for me to go out and just approach people while I was traveling. So I thought having a camera and taking photos, that might help. My dad had an older Canon camera at the point, Jesus, and I just thought I'm just gonna test this out. So I did that in the forest with him. And then that led to me immediately being hooked, wanting a camera myself. So I bought a Canon 80D, thought this is gonna be my camera forever. And I think it lasted me a year or something. And then the R series from Canon came out. I was immediately hooked, still waited a bit. And then during COVID, kind of just lost motivation for my job. I couldn't travel. I decided to upgrade to the Canon R6, what I had since then. And it's a photo first camera. Let's find a place to sit so I can actually tell you why I chose that camera originally and why it doesn't work for me anymore. Alright, so ever since I got the R6, I was so happy with it. But that was back when I was still doing photography as the main thing. In fact, I only played around with video just a little bit to test it out and have fun with it. But I never intended for this to be my full-time creative journey. And for photography, the R6 was perfect. And I invested in the expensive RF glass, so I had kind of everything that I needed. The only problem was that later on during COVID, when I decided to turn my life upside down and quit my job as an IC consultant and start traveling the world. While I still wanted to do photography, I wanted to do more video as well, both because I wanted to just document some of my journey along the way. But during that time, I also realized that video was more for me, both because I love storytelling, but also because there was a shift in the market. For me, it was difficult to make photography work full time, and video seemed like something that was not easier, but could potentially work better for me while I was traveling. And so I decided to make the huge switch to go into videography from photography and still doing photos. So at that time, the R6 was still good, but slowly over the years, and it's been more than 2 years now since I really started doing video, the R6 has just been having some limitations, and nothing bad about the Canon cameras, nothing bad about the R6 particularly, but Canon just makes a lot of their cameras photo first. And the video capabilities, while it still makes a very good image, it's just lacking in the department of what I need. Some of those problems are amongst overheating. The RF lenses are annoying because you can only get the RF. You can't use a lot of third-party lenses. There's some weird wobbles if I wanted to shoot wide angle like I've been doing now. I was moving around with the eyepiece as well. And just a lot of things that kind of tied together and annoyed me a little bit. Record limit times was one of them as well, if I didn't mention that already. There was just a lot of things building up, and while I still do like to take photos sometimes, most of what I do is video. So something like the FX3 here just makes so much more sense to have than what I had before. So let's see if we can find somewhere else, even though I really like this small disclosed place, where I can tell you why the FX3 has everything that I want and need, and why I chose this one to be the one that I want to switch to. So let's see if we can find somewhere else, and I'm going to tell you about that. Oh, and in the meantime, I'm going to switch lenses so I can shoot some B-roll just to test that out, shoot some 120 and just see how everything looks. I think I'm going to put on the 24-70 and just play around with that for a little bit. I just realized now that I think I forgot the ND filter at home, which is great. So it's going to be without ND filter, but hopefully it's fine. Sun is almost down, so it's probably no problem. But yeah, a little bit of B-roll while I'm finding another place to sit. And then I'm going to tell you about why the FX3 is exactly the camera I think I need. Alright, so it is so awkward to film this, so I found something that's not the nicest spot, but this is what I could find to sit. Just the lenses a little bit. Amazing. Like the 35 is still on there now at f1.4 before, and the ISO is at 12,800, and that's just crazy for me that that's possible. So that leads us kind of to why I wanted to test out and potentially switch to the FX3 in the first place. And as I talked about, there is limitations to my R6, but the FX3 has the things that I'm kind of needing, or like that can take my workflow to the next level, not necessarily make me a better filmmaker, but it can make life easier for me, and that's kind of the whole purpose of the switch. So one thing is that they have the dual native ISO that I'm using right now, so shooting in super low light conditions and still getting a clean image, hopefully. I haven't seen the image yet, but I'm assuming it's clean, as from everything that I've heard. And secondly is like no record time limit, so that's amazing that I can roll for more than 30 minutes. That's great. The hot shoe that I can put the camera straight into without any cables, I love that. Full size HDMI, not that I have a monitor on it right now, but just annoying with that flimsy little mini HDMI. I've already broken one cable of those, so that's really nice. The lenses, I keep saying, side note, that the FX3, I expect it to be smaller. I found out that the body itself is kind of the same size. The lenses are so much lighter, like 24-70 compared to the one on my R6. Huge difference. I'm gonna put the weight difference here, but just having them both in my hands, that was definitely a noticeable difference from that. So just carrying around this kit with 3 lenses and walking around with the camera, normally I feel like it's clunky, but maybe it's just because it's a new camera, but it was a lot more fun to do it this way. 4K 120 is not a huge thing, but I like that it has it. Another thing was that it has all the tele lights, so I can see that everything is lighting red right now, so I can see that I'm recording. I've had so many times where I think I'm recording, and I'm actually, when I'm putting the camera down, that's when I start recording. So it's a minor thing, but I actually really enjoy that that's on there. I think the dual native ISO, the hot shoe, the lenses, all of that combined is just why I want to switch, and a lighter setup. It might not end up being that much lighter in the end, depending on how many lenses I'm gonna get, but so far this has been so much fun. And just from moving things around and focusing, I've been shooting some of the clips that you saw in manual focus as well. So snappy, and the peaking settings on there are so good compared to my R6. I can barely see anything that I'm doing. Not that I shot much manually there, but it was mostly because it was just not really that possible to do it. So with this, incredible. I love that that's possible. So those were some of the things that I'm super excited about. Now, before I end this mini vlog off, there's a few things that I want to test already. Right now I'm shooting in the smaller format, the H.265 format, which is more compressed. I've heard a lot of people talk about it's straining the computer. I have a MacBook with an M1 Max chip in, so it should not be a problem for me, but that's a thing that I want to test out. I want to test out this one and the H.264 one and see if there's any difference both in color and quality, because there's gonna be a size difference, I know, and the H.265 is way smaller. So that's one thing I want to test out. I want to test out the colors, obviously. I've done color grading for so long. I know that they're fantastic on the FX3, but I just want to test them and see how I like them, my initial thoughts. Then I'm going to test the microphones and just overall using it, the experience of that, and switching from Canon. I need to get used to this menu system in it as well. But I'm just curious if you have any things that you want me to test out. I'm not going to go into crazy specific technical details on this, both because I don't know all of those and I only have 2 weeks so far, and because there's so many videos on it already. It's been out for more than 3 years, I think, so I don't really need to cover that. So I would much rather test things that you would like to see. I'm also going to shoot a cinematic video either this weekend or next weekend. It's Monday currently, but we'll see what that comes around to. It's definitely the plan to do something like that. So let me know in the comments below if there's something that you would like to see me do with the FX3, something you haven't seen before. I'm happy to test it out. I just want to put this to the maximum pace that I can. And oh yeah, another thing, hopefully I'm in focus while I'm saying this. The autofocus so far has been insane on this camera. Even when I was testing it at home, it's crazy how snappy it is, even in low light. So yeah, I'm stunned by this camera so far. It's probably just the excitement of new gear, but I'm very curious to test this out a lot more. So this is the end of my second vlog and just kind of unpacking everything, testing this. Let me know what you want me to test out, and then a lot more videos are gonna come because I'm gonna shoot so much next coming weeks. So I'll see you very soon. Until then, take care.